All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Now let's take a look at just how much it costs to buy tickets to your concert for your favorite artist. And some of you know this, right? You buy a ticket for a show, and there's the cost of the actual ticket, and then come the service fees. Now, Ticketmaster in the news again, not for anything good. Largest ticket seller in Quebec seems to be lining its pockets when it comes to tickets. Being able to charge service fees again and again and again, even on the same tickets. In just 48 hours, Journal de Montréal took a look at this last week, and they were able to determine that just two tickets were able to garner $350 in service fees based on being bought and then resold by the person that bought them. Let's find out more. Joey Zukran's with us, an attorney at LPC Avocat, and he's been taking on Ticketmaster in a new lawsuit as well. Joey, welcome back to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
So first things first. So you have a lawsuit against Ticketmaster right now, right? How is that going? What's the state of that case?
So we actually have several lawsuits going on against Ticketmaster, but the one that made headlines this weekend in the Journal de Montréal and the Enquête show Friday evening was essentially the following. When Ticketmaster sells tickets, and you mentioned that they were the biggest seller, they're probably the only seller in Quebec at this point, because they've taken over the Montreal Canadiens and all the events at the Bell Centre as well. So when Ticketmaster sells tickets, and everybody who's purchased a ticket to any event knows this, there's that virtual waiting room where you wait for several minutes and hours sometimes. And then all of a sudden you'll see these tickets appear as what they call and classify as platinum seats. And when you look at their description of platinum tickets or platinum seats, they're described, or they were described on Ticketmaster's website before the lawsuit as being, and I'm quoting, some of the best seats in the house. Now, the problem with that is they were selling platinum seats at an inflated price as some of the best seats in the house, when in fact, they were some of the worst seats in the house. So to give you an example, for the Pink concert that the lead plaintiff bought tickets to, described and sold as platinum, they were in section 332, row D, which is about 12 rows from the ceiling of the Bell Centre. Another class member bought tickets for the Drake concert in section 301, and again, something along the lines of 10 rows from you can literally touch the ceiling of the Bell Centre. And those were for $700. So to sell seats for $300, $400, $500, $600 and to describe them and qualify them as some of the best seats in the house when they're in fact some of the worst seats in the house is just fraud.
But and Joey, I also want to touch on this aspect, right? Because there's another thing being alleged here, right? Which is, they sell the tickets once, and they sell them for a premium price with lots of fees. Then they allow whoever bought them to resell them using Ticketmaster services. And they charge even more fees when you do the resale. And at the end of the day, the amount of money the Ticketmaster can make on a couple of seats, it's staggering.
It's worse than that because there's a caveat, which brings us into the second fraud, which is that Ticketmaster actually puts a price floor. So let's say you buy the ticket. We use the example of my client, lead plaintiff. She buys her tickets to see the Pink concert for $349. And then the next day, they announced a second show. All of a sudden, Pink was available randomly for a second concert in Montreal. We allege that it was planned and that she knew all along, and this is a way, again, to keep tickets artificially inflated in terms of price. And so what happens is they announce the second show, and of course, the value of the tickets that were bought for the first show go down because now there's more inventory available on the market. And when my client or anyone tries to sell their tickets, Ticketmaster says, you cannot sell them below the $349 you paid. This is what we allege is to be price fixing and contrary to the Competition Act and the Quebec Civil Code, because you're now creating a floor. So instead of people transacting and buying and selling like you would do on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji, for example, at the buy and ask price, Ticketmaster sets a price floor and you cannot go below $349. The problem is that Ticketmaster starts releasing tickets in the same row in the same section for $230 or $100 less than what my client bought. So guess who's never selling her tickets? My client and all the people who bought on day one, because Ticketmaster has now taken over. Now, in an event where there's a high demand, such as a Drake or I don't know who's coming to town, Justin Bieber, whoever's very popular, and you can obviously make money on those, that's a different story. And yes, they make an excessive amount on the fees as well, but that's not what our case is about. Yes, they have a de facto monopoly, but that's just because nobody else has come out and competed against them. And I think those, such as Evenco, who have tried, have simply closed shop and outsourced it to Ticketmaster.
Yeah, that's the other thing here, right? You just look, they're so big. They seem to be able to just swallow everyone up and get all of those ticket sales. Joey, I need to ask you, what does the law say about this? What does the Consumer Protection Act say? Tell us about how the law is on your side in these cases.
So, I mean, I think this is a headshot case against Ticketmaster because under Consumer Protection Act, a merchant cannot make a false or misleading declaration. And the reason I say it's a headshot is because several months after filing this case, in specific, the case that has to do with advertising tickets as Platinum, is that they modified their website and they removed that whole mention of being the best seats in the house or some of the best seats in the house. So that's no longer there. I still think the term Platinum is misleading, but ultimately a merchant, and I'll give you another example in a second, a merchant is allowed to sell its product at any price it wants, and it's up to people to buy and to decide whether or not to buy them. And I'll give an example. You buy a ticket to Air Canada to Florida early on, it's $400, but the guy sitting next to you may have paid $800. Tesla, for example, just dropped the price of some of their vehicles from anywhere to $10,000 to $41,000, depending on the model of vehicle you have. So, it seems that a merchant is allowed to, increase or decrease the price. So where the problem is if you advertise something and it's contrary to reality, that's when it becomes fraud under the Consumer Protection Act, or when you fail to inform. And the courts have interpreted that provision, Section 228, of failure to inform very largely and broadly in favor of consumers. So, for example, if Ticketmaster knew that Drake or Pink or Justin Bieber or Madonna, whoever you've seen those concerts, and all of a sudden a second date is announced, if they knew all along that there was going to be a second show, and we'll be able to prove this after discovery on trial, if they knew all along there was a second show and they just hid it from the public in order to increase and maximize sales and ticket prices on the first day, well, I would argue, and I will argue in court, that these members who bought tickets are entitled to a refund or a partial refund for the ticket.
Joey, I have to be quick here, but I want to ask you this. On the filed under the be careful what you wish for, is there a risk? You win this lawsuit, you crush Ticketmaster, and then when artists and Ticketmaster has to book arenas and stadiums in North America, they say, we're not going to make as much money in Montreal anymore. Let's put less shows in Montreal and less shows in Quebec. Is that a risk here?
Listen, I don't think anyone's crushing Ticketmaster out of Quebec. They're a multinational company with operations all over the world. But I think, and what you'll hear the artists saying, and actually I know you have The Cure, for example, who came out. The artists are against this practice for the most part. Even Drake, when I was doing interviews all over American media back when this case broke, Drake's people were silent and said, look, we don't decide the price of the ticket. That's Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
So, and I think Taylor Swift's people said the same thing when Taylor Swift came out a few months ago when there was that whole glitch issue. So the artists, I think, want their fans to be able to afford seats. The problem is when Ticketmaster, both on their primary and secondary markets, start gouging the consumer and charging, essentially whatever they want, whatever the market dictates. And again, that's where the Consumer Protection Act and certain vehicles such as a class action come in to try to level the playing field and put some more money into the consumer's hands.
Joey, got to leave it there. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.
That's Joey Zukran, attorney at LPC Avocat.